Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing to hear from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So we have so far heard from the first 8 verses, Lord Krishna speaking the transcendental knowledge or the knowledge about himself. So after Arjuna came up with the questions about the Lord's supremacy, the Lord started beginning to answer those questions we just heard yesterday. So today we begin with the verse number 9. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So even before we begin with the first text 9, I would just like to recollect for those who are a little late, who didn't catch up. So at the end of the 3rd chapter we heard about the transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness, or the power of devotional service which will help one to overcome the all-devouring enemy, lust. And so Arjuna's inquiries, the link for the 4th chapter is from the understanding that we have to know about Krishna, we have to surrender to Krishna. Now, so the Lord begins, the Lord begins to give advice to Arjuna about how this knowledge that he has spoken several millenniums back to the sun god, and then in parampara the knowledge is coming up. And also the Lord gives the importance of Guru Parampara, and also he sets the standard of how to receive it. Bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam yetad uttamam. He says only when devotee can understand, and that is the prerequisite to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Now after Arjuna having asked this question, how to understand that Vivaswan is very elder to you, and how do I understand, then the Lord explains about his position, how he is the cause of all the causes, how he is the controller, how his body is transcendental, he is not affected by the change of bodies, he is in his own Swarupa, still he manifests in various forms. So Lord begins to speak about his glory. So this is a very important part of the Bhagavad Gita, wherein Lord opens up to speaks about himself. So, and also in the last 3 verses that we heard, how Krishna is unborn, yet he is born, how he is in his own internal potency, is fixed in his internal potency, he comes out of his own will, he is not controlled by Maya, and his body is transcendental, is ever fresh, he is ever youthful, Navayavanam. Then we heard for what reason he descends, why the Lord descends. So we heard that the Lord wants to put things in a proper position, to set right the discrepancies. When there is a glani, when there is a deviation, when there is a problem, when there is an adharma, he wants to fix that. So the Lord appears. He has scheduled incarnations, he appears by his own will at appropriate times. Then also another reason Krishna gives why he appears, he explains that he wants to relieve the anxiety the devotees they have got with the separation of him. And also Krishna, the external reasons that is explained is that the Lord wants to protect his devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. So these are all the reasons that we heard. Now in today's verse, the Lord is further explaining by knowing about his position and knowing about his birth and activities, what will be the consequence of it? So that's what we are going to see today. So here is what the Acharyas are speaking. Let liberation, which is difficult to attain by numerous endeavors using thousands of practices, become easily available for my exclusive devotees through hearing about my birth and activities. I appear in this world for this purpose also. With this intention, the Lord speaks this verse. You will be successful just by knowing in truth about my birth and activities. That is expressed in this verse. So these are the comments of the Acharyas. So now let's go to the verse. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is a very, very important verse. We need to know, we need to learn this verse, and we need to understand the glory of the Lord's appearance. What is it? Just by in truth, if we understand the Lord's appearance, Lord's activities, then the result is that we are not going to be born again in this material world. We are going to be with the Lord in His eternal service in His abode. And the Lord is giving this assurance in this verse. Now, when we think of this verse, this whole 4 verses are very much dealing with the birth of the Lord and His appearance and His amazing, His qualities, all those things are described. Now one thing also, it's good for everyone to understand, specifically devotees also should understand. The birthday of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, that is the most glorious thing. So, but in the material world, so much importance is given for our birthday. But actually, if you just think about it a little bit with common sense, we can actually our birthday is not so, is actually miserable, we would say, because that is the day we have apparently changed the body and we have got into another body. From time immemorial we have been changing the bodies, and what is it that we are doing? We have completely forgotten Krishna. Yet another body, I have forgotten Krishna and I am into my own world of my relatives, my so-called caste, my religion, my place, and I am attached to so many things, and we want to so much celebrate it. So anybody who comes to the senses, he will understand, oh, actually the Lord should be glorified. What is there so glorious about our birth? There is nothing so glorious about our birth. And we can see in the modern world, it has got, the modern civilization has become even more worse. That you have so many parties on that day, more sinful activities happen, They drink, they eat meat, and they think that it is very auspicious, but the acts that they are performing is all inauspicious. They bring the cake, and then they put the candles, and then they blew the candles, and all the lights are turned off, and big celebration. But sir, you have already changed so many bodies, and now you are again paving your way for yet another body, which in the next birth you may not be even getting a human form of life. So better you learn this verse. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatpatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So this is on Janmashtami we always speak this point, that this is the birthday you have to really celebrate, you have to really focus. So that's why traditionally you see it was quite different, even the birthdays are there. So what is it that they used to do is they used to go to the temples. The first to bow down, you bow down in front of the Lord, acknowledge that the Supreme Lord, He has given you this body, He has given you this opportunity so that you can engage in His service. Your facility, intelligence, everything is given just for one purpose, to remember the Lord and to engage in His service. So we should not forget this, and that should be the idea, not that we just get completely carried away by birthdays. So we have to glorify the Supreme Lord. Okay, now let's see what Srila Prabhupada is addressing in this purport. The Lord's descent from His transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. See here, he says even by hearing, one hears about the Lord's birth and activities, it is all auspicious. It is, one will be able to return home back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, because just by giving oral reception to this Krishna Katha, giving oral reception to this Lord's amazing activities, one immediately becomes eligible to enter the abode of the Lord. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. Now here, Srila Prabhupada is speaking that liberation is not an easy thing. We are bound in this material world from time immemorial because of various attachments, our various desires, focused on multiple things. We completely forget about our constitutional position and our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So it is not so easy to be liberated. So first of all, one should have knowledge, as we heard from the beginning of the second chapter of the Gita. Knowledge means to know the difference between matter and spirit, and the controller of matter and spirit. We should know all these things clearly, and then we should act on that path. Then gradually we may get liberation. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. So it is difficult. So the impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and after many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, is only partial. And there is the risk of returning to this material world. But this devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. Now, here we can see the glory of devotional service, or the glory of hearing about the Lord's birth, His activities in reality, in truth. If someone hears and accepts it as truth, eternal, real, then what is the consequence of it? His place in the abode of the Lord, Vaikuntha, is assured. The Lord says that you come back to me and you will not again, Punarjanma na vidyate, he says. You are not going to be born again in this material world. But immediately here we can see Srila Prabhupada is pointing out the great risk of other process, trying to merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So when someone practices Jnana and then he tries to merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti, what is the risk? What is the risk that is there? The risk is that you may anytime fall down from that place. Why? Because as we heard, that the Jiva is eternally, he is active and he wants to always be engaged in some service. So he cannot be dull, stagnant, doing nothing. So that is not possible. So he falls down from the Brahmajyoti, and so Prabhupada is pointing out there is a great risk of coming back to this material world. All the austerities that he has performed, all the great endeavors he took to gain knowledge, and he cut off his relationships with so many things, but everything becomes futile because the result that he attains is very temporary. He is going to come back. Okay. So Prabhupada points out that in the Brahma Samhita it is stated that the Lord has many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this, only a devotee has this faith that the Lord's various forms are eternal. And also if you see from a logic or from a material perspective, it's difficult to understand this. How is it that there are multi forms of the Lord, simultaneously they are all existing, they are all eternal? Because you don't see a concept like this in the material world. Same person in so many forms. How is it possible? So now I'm sitting here. I cannot be simultaneously present in front of the book table. It is not possible. It's not for us to conceive such a thing. But that's the whole point in spirit. The Lord, it is possible for the Lord. That is Lord's inconceivable potency. He has this potency in him wherein he expands himself simultaneously into wherever he wants. He can expand himself and still be with full energy, the same personality, without any change. So a devotee accepts this because this is Lord's Shakti, that is his power. He can do that. So Srila Prabhupada is immediately pointing this verse, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam. So he has unlimited forms. And in all the unlimited forms he is full. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now this, not everybody accepts this. So this is the supremacy of the Lord. He is the same person. One has to understand this fact you see this point Prabhupada is making here very clear. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. So this is what is the point, they don't understand. The empiric philosophers and mundane scholars, they don't understand this point. They don't understand Krishna's supremacy. They can't understand when they read, okay, there is a Krishna in the Dwaraka, there is Krishna in Vrindavan, there is Krishna in Mathura. So they can't understand it's the same person who is in different moods. They cannot understand this. Some of the scholars are very offensive. They say that there is the Vishnu mentioned in the Rig Veda, and they don't understand that all this Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, Nrsimha, and as we said, Vrindavan Krishna, Mathura Krishna, and Dwaraka Krishna, they are the same person. They can't understand this. They give their own concoctions, speculations. The Rig Veda Vishnu is the actually original deity, and then the Krishna became very popular by his heroic activities. Then they started comparing him to very offensive, completely their own speculation and giving their own ideas. Total speculation, this is called as, and that's why they cannot even touch the Lord's real name, form, His glories. They cannot approach that because their whole entire attitude, entire approach is very detrimental. So that is the point here. Prabhupada is so much emphasizing here. You see, one has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. So that means what? We understand it based on what? We understand based on evidences from the scriptures. There are very clear pramanas which explains the position of the Supreme Lord, how he can manifest in various forms, and how he is simultaneously one and different. All those things are very clearly explained in the scriptures. So immediately we can see Srila Prabhupada is quoting from Purusha Bodhi Upanishad, Eko Devo Nitya Leela Anurakto Bhakta Vyapi Hridyantaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. So this is the point. The Lord, he manifests in Anurupatma Darshana. Also Bhagavatam explains that the Lord actually he descends according to so many forms he manifests according to the desire of the devotees. The different devotees have different desires to worship the Lord in. They have the particular form of the Lord they desire, and the Lord manifests according to them. Same person. And this is what is the reference given from this verse or from the Purusha Bodhini Upanishad. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. So now here Prabhupada is pointing out who can attain the highest perfectional stage of liberation, who becomes eligible. One who accepts that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His form is Satchidananda. He is one person, but he can expand himself into multiple forms, various avatars. He comes with all the potencies. He is the same person. When one has factual conviction of it, when he fully takes it, he doesn't think this as a mythology. He doesn't think this as some fairy tale. He fully accepts this with full conviction and engages in the service of the Lord. For such a person, the Lord, here Srila Prabhupada says that he has attained the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Not to other persons who speculate in various ways about the Lord's form. You can see there may be somebody even worshipping the deities of the Lord. Their philosophy may be completely against what the message the Lord is giving is. So there is some people, they know, they worship the deity of the Lord, and then they say that actually it is not this form, it is the light. They offer this lamp to the Lord, and then they say that actually it's all in this lamp. The whole power and energy is there in this lamp, in this light. Very offensive. There are, I don't want to mention the name of some of the pujaris who are doing worship. Some of them, they don't have understand, because of the influence of Kali Yuga and because of bad association, they have total misunderstanding about the position of the Lord. Or you come in. It's very painful when you come in front of some very famous temples. The Lord is being worshipped, installed by the great acharyas. And from time immemorial worship is going on, and then one local person from there, actually he speaks that, actually this form is there, initially you can meditate on him, but actually it is all nirakar, it is all nirguna, it is all impersonal. Very offensive, completely offensive. No faith at all on the form of the Lord. So Prabhupada is saying that for such a person, he can never attain liberation, he will be conditioned. Birth after birth he will be conditioned. So, but for a person who has got a clear conviction based on the scriptures that the Lord is a person, his form is Satchit Ananda, and eternally he can be engaged in his service by pleasing him. Such a person, without a doubt, he will be able to be transported to the abode of the Lord. So that's the point being made here. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is suddenly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. You see this, why Srila Prabhupada is immediately pointing out this Tattvamasi. We can also see in this word Tattvataha, is being in reality. So that means in reality, if someone acknowledges that you are the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead. But what the Mayavadis and other impersonalists, how do they twist it? Tattvamasi, you are that Brahman, or you are that God, you are God. Like that they twist the message. But that's not the message here. So the point is that yes, we are like Brahman, but the Lord is the Supreme Brahman. And this is our philosophy, that we are Anu, he is Vibhu. And in quality we are same with the Lord, but in quantity we are completely different from the Lord. So this has to be understood. Otherwise you misunderstand and you lose the whole entire message. The clear message of Lord being the Supreme Personality and we are his eternal servants is lost. So the misuse of philosophy, and it creates great havoc in the path of spiritual progress. So that has to be understood very clearly. So further Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, so what is the eligibility to enter the abode of the Lord? In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva viditvati mrityumeti nanyaf panta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. So there cannot be any other shortcut. It's a simple way. The Lord as himself is teaching us. Hey, this is the way. You understand about my birth, understand about my transcendental form, understand, you accept in reality all my activities. People immediately, some of them, they can't perceive when the Lord comes in various forms. Nrsimha, half man, half lion. So immediately some of them when they see the picture, they just reject it. What is this? How God can be like this? Very ferocious. Killing, blood, everywhere there is blood. They are unable to understand this. How the Lord is a person, he is showing his affection for his devotee. His anger is an exhibition of his affection, his love for his devotee. No, only a devotee can understand this. So others they just outright reject. Same thing yesterday we were discussing. When the Lord appears in the form of a hog, he is in the boar incarnation. They cannot understand how God and boar, they cannot link it. Or they even criticize that, Krishna, Ram, Ram is a very moral person. Krishna is immoral. They can't understand his activities. What is this dancing with other man's wives? They cannot understand how the Lord he is the Purusha and everyone else is Prakriti. So what is the problem? Where is the problem? They cannot understand what Lord's at. So they criticize. Janma karma chame divyam. It is completely transcendental. We will see when we see the commentaries, the acharyas are explaining. It's uncommon. Yeah, it's not seen normally. But this is the glory of the Lord. He can perform all those activities. So that is being expressed here. That so when you have always you doubt, you have several misconceptions, then you are stuck in this material world and you become very offensive to the activities of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada is further pointing out here that there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. You see, Prabhupada is again giving this analogy. We saw in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada spoke this. So how foolish it is, no? Someone wants to taste the honey, but it's if you just if you learn from someone who is normal person, who has got some common sense, you have to open the honey bottle, you have to put some drop of honey in your hand and then lick it, then you will be able to taste it. No, why I should follow that method? I will now lick it from outside. Keep licking it, for 50 years, 100 years, who is stopping you? This is the entire attitude is completely wrong. Same thing, Prabhupada gives another analogy, simple analogy, it makes a very profound point. He says that, you go to a doctor and doctor is giving you a prescription. Okay, doctor has given you 3 tablets, what time you have to take, and he has given you food restrictions. Then you come back home and then you say, why I should follow that? let me take all the tablets. He says for 1 week I have to take this tablet. Let me take all the tablets at one shot. Okay, try and then see. You will not have any more problems. You will become completely free from your disease. You will get a new body. Okay, this is what is going to happen. Or why this diet and all these things you don't have to follow. You just take the medicines. So many. Sometimes we see practically this is happening in our life. But so much you have to follow these steps very sincerely if you want to get the disease cured. But then why not be a little humble and hear from the Supreme Lord himself? He himself is giving directions. Why not give oral reception to that? Simply hear, at least once in our life we can hear what he says and then think about it and try to apply those teachings and then see if there is any effect. So this is where the jiva, when the jiva is so puffed up, and we heard prakrite kriyamani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma. If we are floating on the platform of ahankar, then we are going to suffer. We are going to suffer. Already we have suffered birth after birth. So we have to become humble and take a position of submissiveness and hear from what the Lord has got to say. Then we will be able to make progress. Otherwise, if we give oral reception to these mundane scholars who completely keep doubting the form of the Lord and his appearance and his various activities, they don't accept, they rightly deny it. So they immediately have their filters and they put the filters and they say that, these are all heroic activities or powerful activities of an ancient person. Like that, they just put it in one folder and then they totally reject it. So that's why Bhagavatam also explains, Kritavan kila karmani saharamena keshava atimartyani bhagavan guda kapata manushaha. Not so easy to understand the activities of Krishna and Balaram. They themselves have masked themselves in human form. Very difficult to understand. Only a devotee can understand. Devotee can identify. Others cannot identify him. It is not possible by your intelligence. It's not possible by your strength. It's not possible by your analysis. It will be a completely impossible for you to understand the message that the Lord is giving. So the process already, even before speaking Janma Karma Chamedivyam, Krishna has very clearly given what is the process by which you can approach him. If we approach by that process, then it is possible. So Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, some empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. You say, such and such a person is a great philosopher. He has done this contribution, that contribution. Whatever may be the contribution, whatever you have written so many books. But if you have not followed in the footsteps of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, undisputed devotees, you can't get the message. You can't understand. There is one famous politician who was who wrote commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. How he entered into the field of philosophy or so-called spiritualism and philosophy. He was thinking, should I become a scientist or philosopher? Then he was thinking, scientist. In science also I can speculate something, but there is too many rules and regulations. I have to work with so many laws and rules and regulations, so I am restricted. But philosophy, I can say whatever I want to say. I can just blabber. I can justify it in whatever way I want. So better let me become a philosopher. This is how he wrote a commentary for Bhagavad Gita. So this is how he took up philosophy. So it became so cheap. So we heard religion without philosophy. What is that? It's just sentimentalism, fanaticism. And philosophy without religion, it's again complete mental speculation. So this is the point. So this is what all these scholars are so puffed up and they cannot get the message. So Srila Prabhupada, he is concluding in this purport. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. So this is the point. You see, when Prithu Prabhu was here, His Grace Prithu Prabhu was here, he narrated one incident that how he took great pains to go and then give one Bhagavad Gita as it is to one German philosopher. So much pains he took all the way. He had to maybe 2-3 hours travel, and then the person is almost in the deathbed. He is going to leave this world. Somehow or other he got Bhagavad Gita as it is, and then he had appreciation for the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So he got the mercy. So this is the only hope for these people. Otherwise they will be rotting in this material world, birth after birth. So the devotees are very merciful. So they just go, they travel all around the world, and then they distribute. They boldly say, this is the message of our Supreme Lord. His activities are glorious. His birth is glorious. His instructions are glorious. So take up, surrender. There should be change in life by hearing the message. So this is the point to be cultivated. And here Srila Prabhupada is concluding with the purport. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. So that's the whole point. So our process is not some sentimentalism. We are following a very clear process. Our process is supported by the scriptures, and scriptures are giving clear position of the Lord and His name, His forms, His activities, His abode, His relationship with His devotees, His likes, what He doesn't like. Everything in detail is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and other scriptures, other devotional scriptures. So if we hear this message and with faith take up this process of Krishna consciousness, then we can make progress. So that is a conclusion by Srila Prabhupada. Now we will see some commentaries of the previous acharyas. So as we said, Sridhara Swami says Divya means uncommon. So we explained. So the word Divya, Prabhupada translates as a transcendental, spiritual also is another meaning that is given. It's uncommon. So that's why we see when Krishna lifted, as a young boy, lifted the Govardhana hill, with his small finger, he lifted for 1 week. Some people cannot understand, but the devotees are so, they hear 1,000 times or millions of times, keep hearing these glories. This is such a glorious act by the Lord, uncommon act. So this shows the power of the Lord, and this shows also how the Lord has got affection for His devotees. So we appreciate when we glorify this uncommon activity, but for a mundaner, he is completely stuck with this activity. Okay, now the same verse what we saw now here in this Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he is quoting from Bhagavatam and establishing, yes, how the Lord's activities are very pure, and the Lord's activities are with immense potency, and those who hear, they become free from all contaminations. Na vidyate yasya cha janma karma va na nama rupe gunadosha eva va tatapi lokapyaya sambhavaya swamayaya tanya anukalam richati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities are false. To fulfill the purpose for which the material world is created and destroyed, he comes in the form of a human being like Lord Ram or Lord Krishna by his original internal potency. He has immense potency and in various forms, all free from material contamination. He acts wonderfully. He is therefore the Supreme Brahman. I offer respects to him. So we can see that the Bhagavatam also is establishing this point. Okay, now we can also see in this verse that the Tattvataha, as we discussed, Tattvataha is such an important word. In reality, in truth, we should understand this. We can see this word many in the Bhagavad Gita repeating. Where else you remember? Tattvataha. Quick. Bhaktyamam vijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato jnatva vishate tadanantaram. Then the second chapter, do you remember any verse? Ubayorapi drishtontas tanayor tattva darshibihi. Tattva. So this word tattvata is repeated many times in the Bhagavad Gita. So we can see here the point that is being made by the acharyas also. Yo veti tattvataha can also mean one who knows me as the very form of Brahman. This is because later Krishna will say Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho Brahmanas trividam smritaha. The three words Om Tat Sat all indicate Brahman. Therefore, Tattva means the state of being Brahman. That Yo veti tattvataha means one who know me as the form of Brahman. So here, that's why also we can see Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse in the this reference Yo veti tattvataha, that the Brahman, who is the basis of his Brahman, that is the Supreme Lord himself. So that is also pointed out. And another interesting point here we can see that that person does not take birth again but rather attains me. The words tyaktva deham only indicate the last condition of life. For not only giving up the body, one does not take birth again, but even while not giving up the body, before that one attains me. That means what? So a person even now practicing Krishna consciousness, he is in touch with the Lord, he is with the Lord. By chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, bowing down to the Lord's deities, association with the devotees. We are not in this material world, we are with Krishna, we are in Vaikuntha. So this is the point that's being made. Now another point that Sripad Ramanajacharya is conveying, he says, destroying all sins which are unfavorable for surrender to me by true knowledge of my spiritual birth and activities, taking shelter of me in this life in the prescribed way, that person who holds me alone as dear, constantly thinking of me, attains me. So now this is the point. So once you know that about the Lord's birth, his activities, then what he does, he engages in the Lord's service, always absorbed in his service. So for him, punarjanma na vidyate. So that is being confirmed. Okay, so let's see a couple of lecture quotes from Srila Prabhupada. Now here the word tattvataha is very important. Tattvataha is the signs of Krishna and means in truth. It is not enough to know by historical facts that Krishna is born on such and such date, in such and such place, in such and such family, and that he did such and such activities. One has to learn them in tattvataha, in truth. This reminds me of one thing, sometimes some scholars, they do heavy analysis of Krishna born in Dwaraka, or Krishna performed his activities in Dwaraka and all those things. But it's all just only analysis for them. After that, they just go and watch movie, they smoke cigarette. So many things they do. For them it's just a hobby, it's just an analysis. But in truth, it has to be accepted and understood. This is not some fairy tale. So here Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that. So one has to learn them in tattvataha, in truth. Then he becomes free from this bodily entanglement. How can one understand the signs of Krishna? It is explained in the 18th chapter that Krishna signs can be understood by devotional service. Or for that matter, we discussed that. So many acharyas given commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna himself has established that he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, but suddenly one gets a great realization, and then they come up with the idea that actually Shiva spoke the Bhagavad Gita. What a bogus idea. From where these ideas are coming? Who is your authority? On what basis you are speaking this? So this is all called as a speculation. Okay, here is another conversation. Can we just have a chanting without instructions? Prabhupada, what is that? Sudama, she wants to know actually that should they just have the chanting without reading your books or without instruction or following the program? Prabhupada, but the chanting must be pure. Your guru is writing books. If you think that there is no necessity to read any books, that is Guru Ravagya. Do you mean to say I am writing these books every night for selling and making money? Why do you think like that? So there should just be chanting and reading books. Yes. So now this is the point. Now why I just put this quote is, now why Krishna speaks is Janma Karma Chala, very nice, you accept. Some people say, it was so nice, Krishna's leelas are amazing, wonderful. But then they watch, the Monday to Friday, they watch all serials, they watch different programs, and then just they drink coffee, they just do whatever they do daily. No, we have to understand in truth Understanding in truth means applying the instructions in our life. Every day we hear from, oh, what about Krishna book? Every day we read Krishna book. Srila Prabhupada said, just by reading this one book, one can go back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada, he wrote the summarized edition of his Krishna book, 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, he summarized. Why he wrote that at the beginning? Because he knew that, he was not sure whether he will be able to complete the other world. So let me give to the world, let me present Krishna as it is. Let me present Krishna without covering, all his leelas, all his amazing activities. Prabhupada gave. Along in the Krishna book you can see, for those who are regularly reading Krishna book, Krishna book contains the message. Not only Krishna's leelas are there, it is twinned with so much philosophy. So anyone who every day gives oral reception from the Krishna book, so much purification happens. So for us to appreciate about Lord's activities, about His form, we need to read every day. We need to hear from Srila Prabhupada, His bona fide representative. Then we will be surcharged. Then we will not have doubts. We will not have misconceptions. Our faith will become more strong. So that is the point that is being mentioned here. So now, having heard about the Lord's exceptional qualities, his attributes, how his birth is although he is unborn, he is just coming to the material world to save his devotees. Now again also the Lord is giving such an assurance that if someone hears about my birth, about my activities, no more birth, then what is it that is stopping one from making progress? Why someone is not making progress? What is the situation? Now Krishna he gives hints of what is that which is blocking. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bhavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So now here Krishna is speaking about three things, raga, bhaya and krodha. Now also the acharyas are pointing out, as in the present time, in the past also many persons gain liberation by knowing the eternal nature of my birth and activities. The Lord speaks to confirm the eternal nature of His birth and activities. Now there is another point that we can understand, that here the Lord is giving assurance that many people in the past have come out of all conditioning. They have taken up the process of, they have with this knowledge that my birth is transcendental, my activities are transcendental. With this knowledge and with the practice they gained from this knowledge, so they have surrendered their lives in my service, and they have come out of all the attachments, all the obstacles, and they have attained my bhav, or they attained my abode. They attain the consciousness from the mundane consciousness. They have come to the Krishna consciousness. This is again a very important verse. This clearly gives for us the evidence of how powerful is the process of Krishna consciousness, how people have become purified. So we can be rest assured, we can place our faith with full confidence, because so many people in the past have practiced this process and they have attained perfection. So the Lord is insisting, why not take up this with full faith? And also we can see another aspect. We can see why others are not taking it up. What is the problem? Why they are not? This is such a revelation, for us, that Krishna janma karma chame divyam. The Lord's birth is divyam. His activities are divyam. Come and take shelter, surrender, sarva dharman parityajya. Why not? Why you are not making progress? Where is the block? So now the Lord is discussing. In this verse he is showing that there are three obstacles in our path. So that we will discuss. So now we can see here, Prabhupada immediately begins the purport explaining that it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. That we saw, there are so many people, mundane wranglers, scholars, demons, atheists, they cannot accept the personal nature of the Lord, or the Lord is a person. They are not able to accept, they don't accept the Supreme Truth. They are not. Why? What is the problem? Now, the first reason in the verse Krishna is saying, Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. Three things Krishna is pointing out. Now, we will first discuss about Raga, which refers to attachment. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Now, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that those people who are so much attached to enjoying the senses, all the time absorbed in enjoying the senses and the sense objects, for them, the conviction that the Lord is a person does not arouse in them. They don't understand that the Lord is a person. Okay. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge and eternally blissful. See, they cannot understand this. They cannot appreciate the Lord's form, and they strongly doubt the form of the Lord. So, for example, when Bhishma was sending arrows on Krishna, we can see, we hear the descriptions that there is blood coming out from the Lord. They say, "Oh, what is this?" They cannot understand. For the Lord, it is pleasure for the Lord. We hear from the Bhagavatam how the arrows from the Bhishma, they were like flower, they were like rose that was hitting the Lord. So that is the understanding. But those who are completely materially engrossed, so they even criticize that. They cannot accept that. So because they are completely in ignorance. They are totally in ignorance. They don't accept that the Lord's form is Satchidananda, as we discussed before. So here, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that in the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. So that is the whole point. That's why again and again you can see in the scriptures the Lord's form is described, how his form is transcendental, how it is not like that of any normal human being. So that is why so many descriptions are given about this, how it is Sat, Chit and Ananda, whereas our body is Asat, Achit, Nirananda, right? So because we Atmane Manyate Jagat, whatever that I see here is all made up of these tissues, bones, blood and muscles. So Krishna's form is also like that. So when he says he's a person, it's like that he's a mundane person. So this is a misunderstanding they have. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. So for them, they don't accept the form of the Lord, and then for them, so you can see those who are so much engrossed in sense gratification, for one who always tries to satisfy his senses with all kinds of materialistic enjoyment. For him, he accepts this universe as God, or this the Virat Rupa as the Lord. All this understanding, this is what they have. Of course, there is one set of people who are completely atheistic, who don't accept anything. But again, some of the sense enjoyers, for them, their acceptance is the universe as God. They don't accept the Lord as a personality. That we can see Prabhupada points out further in this purport. Therefore, for such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the Supreme to be impersonal. So for them, they deny the personality of the Lord, and then they accept the impersonal aspect of the Lord. So they totally deny it. So now this is the problem. So they have their preconceptions, they have their own attachments, and because of the attachment, they totally deny the form of the Lord. Now we can also see from another perspective that even for a person who has begun the practice of Krishna consciousness, okay, for him, if we are attached to several material things, if the whole process of sadhana bhakti is given to us, okay, the whole process of sadhana bhakti helps us to come out of the attachment of this material world. So now we are seeing again another perspective to this attachment, okay. So if we do not take up the instructions that is given by our acharyas or the principles of sadhana bhakti, if we remain attached to our mundane things, then we cannot make progress. We are stuck in this material world. So that's why initiation means it is something very serious affair, serious business. So when we are initiated, that means that we have given a vow to surrender our lives to our spiritual master and Krishna, right? So when we come forward with this clear conception that I need to surrender my life, I need to give up this idea of sense gratification, and what we do, we engage positively in Krishna's service. So we have to give up the attachment to many mundane things. Otherwise, many times we hear, this is what happens. What happens, we take up to the process of Krishna consciousness and keep practicing all our old habits. We are attached to so many things. We are attached to TV, we are attached to the newspapers, we are attached to so many practices that we had before. At the same time, we push the japamala. We just chant our rounds. Then what happens? It becomes, on one hand, you are lighting the fire. On the other hand, what you are doing? You are pouring water. So then the result is that you are going to cry. So yeah, the smoke, because of the smoke that is going to come from the fire, we will be crying. This is what happens. And same thing, you are going to be frustrated by the practice, so-called spiritual practice. Though I have been chanting for so many years, I have been practicing, nothing is happening. Why? Because we are attached. We are just stuck to our conditionings. So we have to be conscious, we have to hear from our acharyas, we have to hear from our spiritual master, we have to hear what are the instructions given in scriptures and take conscious efforts to come out of it. So that is also another point to be understood. So this attachment is a stumbling block for us. So that's why the raga has to be given up. So this is again another perspective on this. Okay. Now the next point, next obstacle, Srila Prabhupada is discussing in the purport. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. You see, this is another problem. Now, what is happening is they are attached to the people are attached to many things, and then after some time, they are, they are already fried and frustrated with some of the things. Then now, because personality means relationships. Relationships means there are always some happiness, distress, some heavy fight, or sometimes some joy. So they don't want to imagine anything about personality. So now here Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that they are too materially absorbed. The conception of retaining the personality of liberation from matter frightens them. So they don't want any kind of personality. So they don't want to have any personal relationship, anything to do with person. So they completely deny that. So Srila Prabhupada points out, when they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again, and so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. You see, this is the problem. So again, personality, again in the abode also, again I need to be a servant, I need to serve, somebody will instruct me, so there will be part, oh no, I don't want. So he wants to completely withdraw from it. Let me merge into the impersonal effulgence. So there I can be completely in silence and total in peace, and I can meditate, and I will be devoid of all problems. So this is the idea. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into ocean. So this is the thing. So in the bubbles at the end, it merges into the ocean. Like that, I will also merge. So that is the idea. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence, attainable without individual personality. So this is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Now why this happens? First of all, you don't have a clear conception how, at the beginning only, you don't have know that Lord is a person, and there is personal service to the Lord. He has an eternal abode, we can engage in His service. There is no conception about that. And also you are, because of various attachments that we had in this material world, and various frustrations we underwent so many different kinds of frustrations, we tried different processes, we are fried. So we don't want to suffer and undergo such kind of experiences that we had. So we deny the personality, we denied the personal conception of God, and we want to totally merge. So and Srila Prabhupada points out that this arises because of imperfect knowledge, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. So this is the consequence of it. So now also another thing that we can understand from this, we also in practicing Krishna consciousness, we may also get fear. What is a fear? We may have seen that this person fell down from Krishna consciousness. It didn't work out for that person. That person practiced for some time and he didn't make any progress. So you become fearful, and I say that okay, go on Sunday, just do little service and then come. Enough. Too much bhakti is very dangerous. They just immediately come to some fear. What will happen? They'll say, come, be careful going to Hare Krishna. They'll say, just come, you can come, take darshan, chant. Slowly they'll call you for 1 hour, then they'll call you for 2 days, and then your entire life you will give to Krishna. Danger. Then what will happen to you? What will be your future? all these confusions, then you get fear. So let me just, little by little, and then let me not. So again fear, what will happen to me, what will happen to society, what others will say. So again this fear is again a stumbling block. It's not allowing us to serve the Lord. It is stopping us, misconceptions, so many different kinds of misconceptions. So this fear is not allowing us to come closer to Krishna. It's not allowing us to come closer to devotee. And so we are in the same position, we are stagnant, we are not making progress. You see, this is again a great problem. So we have to come out of the fear. We should have faith on the words of the Lord. We should, so that's what actually in this verse is showing. In this verse you see, Manmaya maam upashitaha, bahavo jnana tapaso putamad bhavamagataha. We can see the rest of the verse. It says that so many people in the past, they have come out of all these conditionings. You fool, you see their lives. You can also come out. Don't get stuck. Don't be in, like a frog in the well. Just see from a very short vision, small narrow-mindedness. Come out of it. You can see all great personalities. See great personalities like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish. All great personalities. Many of them underwent so many difficulties. They all have attained perfection. And also we can see still till today it is happening. Great devotees who have taken shelter of this process of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada went to the West, so many people from various backgrounds who have been from different faith, they took to the process of Krishna consciousness and they attained purification, from meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, so many atrocities been the past life, but now they have become saintly personalities. From being crows, they have become swans. We can see the lives of great devotees. So this should be our inspiration. We should not be fearful. We should have the confidence that the Lord's protection is there. The Lord will give protection. There is no deficiency in this process. So we should come out of this fear. So that's also another point that we need to understand. Okay, now further Prabhupada is pointing out. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Now there is again another category of people. What happens? They some of them, they tried materialistic life and they get a little frustrated, and after that they want to try some spiritual process. They try the spiritual process without any sense control, without any mind control. They try something and then after some time they get frustrated with the process. Okay, they go to some other faith, they go to some other guru, and they see Guru himself is engaged in all kinds of bogus acts and all cheating things. You see all kinds of cheating also they see. So that's why we sometimes hear, who was that who said religion is the opium of the mass. So I think it was Marx or Lenin, one of them. So the thing is that it is true to some extent, because in the name of religion so much cheating is going on, so much bogus activities are going on. Now for that matter, you cannot totally deny the whole process of religion, the whole process that is given, spiritual process that is given. You do not know what is the right path. So what is the conclusion? Everything is zero, there is nothing, everything is null and void. This is the conclusion. So this is the Buddhist philosophy, that everything is zero, everything is null and void. So they completely give up all kinds of philosophical process and they just totally want to become zero. This is the time, Shunyavadi. Srila Prabhupada in one lecture says, we also follow Shunyavadi, but that is with respect to enjoying sense gratification. We are Shunyavadi with respect to enjoying the material desires. In that, yes, Buddhism is allowed. We can become Shunyavadis, but not otherwise, So we have to take shelter of Krishna. We have to take, this is the perfect process. So now what happens? You become angry, you become so frustrated, you become, very hard-hearted. Everyone you doubt. You see some sadhu, you see someone, one Paramamuda messed up, then anybody who comes with that saffron dress, you want to throw stone on him. You want to spit at him. Actually it was very difficult. When this Paramamuda did a mess, then in Salem, our devotees were going out for book distribution. We had great difficulty. People were just, closing the doors. They see the saffron. Some devotees had difficulty going in the trains. People immediately become angry. Oh, these fellows are parasites in the society. They are just only creating troubles. These people they are the problem makers. So, but that's not the truth. because some people are messed up. It's not that you cannot deny the fact. You cannot deny the truth. Oh, this is what is being discussed here. So you become angry and you become, again, it blocks your intelligence, it blocks your vision. Now we can see in our Krishna consciousness also, another aspect we can see, those who have begun practicing Krishna consciousness, we see heavy guru fall down, we see heavy mess, we see politics, some major mess happening. Then what happens? We immediately become so angry, we become very much depressed. We just want to hate. Give up this powers of Krishna consciousness. What is this? So many years we see this such a mess is happening, but we have to be patient. We have to be tolerant. We have to see from the Krishna conscious perspective why it is happening, how it has happened, and again we have to see the weight of the statement of the scriptures. Guru Sadhu Shastra. That is why it is there. We should not be what's the right word to use? We should not be impulsive. Just, some incidents have happened, now you immediately conclude. Just, okay, I don't want any more association of devotees. I don't want to be any more in touch with ISKCON and just completely cut off. Well, that is there because sometimes some devotees also fry. So that's why devotees have to be very responsible. How they're dealing with, how they speak, how they behave, how they follow the standards. Those things are so important. But again, any activity should be seen in accordance with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Not by taking some incident you come to a conclusion. Even there could be some 10 incidents. Those incidents, does it conform with the conclusions of scriptures? So that we have to see. And also you can see when there is some mess or something is happening, we can immediately see that the statements of the scriptures are true. Because you see, somebody has done a mess, you can see that he didn't follow strictly, he didn't follow the rules and regulations strictly. So what happens? That big mess happened. So that shows that the process is perfect. He messed up, so there is a problem. So we have to peacefully sit and understand it philosophically, and then we should go on with our practice of Krishna consciousness. Not that we become fried and frustrated and become angry and then totally give up the devotees. So then what is the solution? So what is the alternative? What do you have? We are in the material world. There is no alternative other than association of devotees, other than taking shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness, other than hearing from the words of Krishna. There is no better alternative. So that we have to be sober enough. This we can come to the understanding when we are with devotees who are very steady, who have gone through years of practice of Krishna consciousness, have seen the pros and cons of taking the process of bhakti. So that is the whole process. So now here Srila Prabhupada is summarizing. He says, some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. You see? So because of, we already heard, Krishna said in the Gita, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya apahirta chetasam. Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhauna vidiyate. So someone who is absorbed so much into bhoga and aishwarya, he cannot make progress. He cannot even be peaceful for 5 minutes. Mind is always agitated. So because of attachment, he cannot make progress. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause. Now this is again another problem. And some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. So now this is the point that first one we saw about the attachment. The second one, Krishna is speaking about how one becomes what is that? Yeah, because of the fear, one becomes, he's not able to discriminate, he gets into a shell, he cannot offer himself, he goes into some misconceptions and he gets stuck with that. And then the third point that is being discussed here is about the anger, and because of the anger, because you have bad experiences, and because of the bad experience, you have totally rejected all the process. Now and then you are totally into the whirlpool. So you see, so important is this verse to understand how we need to be careful. We may go through a situation like this, we may get stuck like this. So, but with patience, if you can understand that these are all the very nature of this material world can put us into these three obstacles of attachment, anger, and fear and anger. So we need to hear from Krishna, and then we need to give up these attachments, and then we can make progress. Now this verse is why we also stress that this verse is it's such an important verse. Here Krishna is speaking about bhav. Putamad bhavam agataha. Puta, one becomes purified and attains my nature, attains my abode. We get to the abode of the Lord. So it's very, very important point to be understood. So now you see Srila Prabhupada is speaking about how to attain that level of purity. Now Srila Prabhupada is giving the process, and the rest of the purport Srila Prabhupada is giving the process. Get rid of the 3 stages and take shelter of the Lord, guided by a bona fide spiritual master. One has to get rid of all the 3 stages of material consciousness, attachment to material life, fear of a spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. To get free from these 3 stages of material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. Now, this is the process. Now, so it's not easy to come out of this attachment, but if we stick to the bona fide process, as Srila Prabhupada points out here, understanding the signs of Krishna consciousness as given by our acharyas. So that's why we see we have our acharyas we have this book Bhakti-śāstra Sindhu. What is that called as? How Prabhupada gives a title for that book. It's called The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga, he says. It's a complete science. That's why it's not a sentimental process or something, I feel like this, maybe, it is like this. No, it's a science, and it's a proper process. If you stick to the Acharya's statements, if you surrender to the bona fide spiritual master, take shelter of him and follow the process, then you can make progress. So that is exactly Srila Prabhupada is indicating here. So sometimes people want to jump, even in Krishna consciousness, they don't want to follow any process, they want to jump to the to higher levels of so-called higher levels of devotion. No, the Acharyas have given us the process. They have given us the process of sadhana bhakti. This is how you take up. And also, people don't like to hear about rules and regulations. Why rules and regulations? Let's have free thinking. So this is also not accepted. That's why you see sometimes devotees, they say we'll do bridge preaching. In the name of bridge preaching, they don't want to say some things. Whatever on the other end people are saying some things, they say, they go along with that. And after some time they try to introduce. But as Guru Maharaj is on his Bhakti Swami, he's pointed out very nicely that actually bridge preaching is done. Srila Rupa Goswami has already given the bridge preaching message, sadhana bhakti. That is why he has given this message of process of Krishna consciousness, starting from Abode Shraddha. It is given. So go through that process. Don't start some new process. Then you will be in trouble. So this is the process. So here Srila Prabhupada, he concludes the purport. This is an important verse everybody should learn. Those who are practicing sadhakas and those who are taking initiation, we all should know this verse. This is an important verse. The stages in bhakti. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti-śāstra Sindhu, the signs of devotional service, Ādau Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangota, Bhajana Kriya, Tato Narta Nivriti Syat, Tato Nishta Ruchis Tataha, Ata Shaktis Tato Bhavas, Tata Premabhyudanchati, Sadhakanam Ayam Premna, Pradhurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. So what is that stage called as? Preliminary desire for self-realization. Shraddha. No, it's called Komal Shraddha, the beginning stage. Very beginning, So that's how the faith. So it just in a budding stage, we start our practice of Krishna consciousness. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, that will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. So that we will discuss in detail when we study the nectar of devotion, but just to give you some idea. So in the beginning, someone just looks at the board of ISKCON, or he sees some devotee, and then you say, oh, you are all, are you belonging to Ramakrishna? Sometimes they ask like this. No, we are Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Oh, where is your temple? Oh, Karpur, you see, every Sunday we have program. So like that, okay, I'll come. So they just come to the temple, and then they just come, they see devotees, arati, sometimes they take prasad, and then they hear that, oh, there is Zoom classes going on, there is program going on, and they become a little inquisitive, they try to hear, and then they come up with questions, the questions are being answered, and then they come ask for service. So that's how it begins, Ādau Shraddha. Then it begins, then it comes in, you come in association with the devotees, Sadhu Sangha, you come in association with the devotees. Then what happens? In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. So then the faith gradually builds up. Then it comes to the stage of accepting a spiritual master. So this is how it should happen, you know. By chanting Hare Krishna, no, I will just chant Hare Krishna, I don't want to, I will just go on like this because Hare Krishna is so powerful. Yes, Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna itself can liberate us, but we have so many misconceptions. Those misconceptions should be cleared, and the misconceptions will be cleared by the bona fide spiritual master. So your chanting of Hare Krishna should lead you to this stage of accepting a bona fide spiritual master. And then you continue chanting Hare Krishna. This is what we are doing. So we accept the bona fide spiritual master. Okay. So, so that is the stage. It's called as Bhajana Kriya. So devotional service begins there. So there are two stages in Bhajana Kriya. One is called the Anishta Bhajana Kriya, when our faith is very weak, and then Nishta Bhajana Kriya, with good faith we practice. Then that we will make rapid progress. When we are in the stage of Anishta Bhajana Kriya, we just keep, we have, you know, one day we perform with enthusiasm, another there is no enthusiasm. One day coming for class, one day not coming for class, one day with great enthusiasm we are cooking, another enthusiasm, another day no enthusiasm for cooking. You know, so we can see this fluctuation, you know, like the pendulum, you know, pendulum in a clock, you know. It's there, it moves to the left side and it moves to the right side. So like that, sometimes super enthusiastic, sometimes absolutely, why I took up this Krishna consciousness. We ask questions like this, I would have been much better if I had been outside, I came here, everything became, so this is, immediately we can understand this is a symptom of Anishta Bhajana Kriya. So we are in that stage. Okay, let's continue. Okay, by execution of devotional service under the guidance of bona fides, under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization. What is this stage called as? Once after having Nishta, yes, one becomes steady, the faith becomes steady. So, so it is from Anishta Bhajana Kriya, one continues with Nishta Bhajana Kriya, then one goes to the stage of Nishta, he becomes very steady. Come what may be, he is fixed in his service, he is fixed in his hearing and chanting, he is fixed in his mission that is given to him by his spiritual master. So steady, you can rely on him. Whatever may happen, there may be corona, there may be earthquake, there may be tsunami, this person is going to practice Krishna consciousness. So that's how it is. So, so this is Nishta. Then what Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain. Oh yes, there is the stage of Anartha Nivritti. I just missed it, so it's too fast. Sorry, it may be too fast, but you will fall down if the Anartha, you are not cleared from the Anarthas, okay? So this is the whole point. So from Anishta Bhajana Kriya, all the Anarthas, you come to Nishta Bhajana Kriya and you become freed from Anarthas. And once you become freed from Anarthas, then you come to the stage of Nishta. So generally it is said that this stage of from Anartha Nivritti to Nishta, it's not so easy, it's very difficult. That we have to go through the purification. So, so it is like climbing the mountain, mountain climbing is not so easy, it's difficult, or even you can, okay, for those who have not climbed the mountain, you go to the Sholingar temple, you have to climb the steps, and as you keep climbing, 50 steps, 100 steps, super enthusiasm, after that, then the speed comes down, but persevere, go, push, then you can, finally you will come to see Lord Nrsimhadev. So like that we have to push, and then coming down is easy, okay. So once we cross this stage of Anartha Nivritti, then Nishta, then everything, then the takeoff is so smooth, okay. So now okay, well let's see what Srila Prabhupada goes on to say. So by execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So then Ruchi, he develops Ruchi. Then Ruchi, in the beginning of Ruchi, he's developed so much taste for the service of the Lord. So he's in bliss. He doesn't, you cannot see him doing anything like this, with enthusiasm. He is just blissful always to engage in the service of the Lord. No complaints, nothing, whatever, anytime. So that is the stage of Ruchi. And then further, all developments you can say. Then he develops great attachment for the name, then name, form, hearing, everything becomes asakti, and then he goes to the stage of bhava, and then from bhava he goes to the stage of prema. So this is the 8 stages that is being explained here. Now we can see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami is narrating this whole incident. He says that how Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. Everything starts by the mercy one receives from the bona fide spiritual master, he gives the Bhakti Lata Bij. So that Bhakti Lata Bij is planted, and then we have a great responsibility to, by the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, we should protect this tender seed of bhakti which is given to us. We should protect it, we should water it, regularly water it, we should protect it from all the weeds that will be giving obstacles. We should regularly remove those weeds. So then gradually, if we just be a proper gardener, and then after one day we just see that there is a fruit that is coming out. Oh, that fruit that is the pure love of God. So we will discuss more about this when we come to the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Srila Prabhupada in one purport, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the Chatushloki Gita, in one purport, Srila Prabhupada beautifully analyzes this, and he says that how this Bhakti Lata Bij, it grows and then it goes, and then this wine, it actually it goes and touches the lotus feet of the Lord and then takes shelter in the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is the glory of the process of bhakti. So bhakti is so powerful. So Prabhupada finally concludes, in the prema stage there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of devotional service under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. So this is the whole point. So the Lord is, the Srila Prabhupada is concluding that one can attain perfection by this process. So what we will do now is we will just see some commentaries by the Acharyas. We can see here the commentary of Sripad Ramanajacharya, some interesting comments here. Regarding the meaning of Jnana Tapasa, Ramanajacharya says, they became purified by the austerity of realization about the nature of my birth and activities as previously stated. You see here, it is nicely explained that they heard about the Lord's birth and activities, and what they did, they were also with great rapt attention. They were controlling their senses, controlling their mind, and they were hearing about the Lord's glories, and they were completely enlightened. They were in great bliss. That is being pointed out here. And you see, there is another meaning, or the meaning can be, they have attained realization of the eternal nature of my birth and activities, became purified by austerity in the form of tolerating the burning poison of wrong ideas, wrong logic, and wrong arguments. This is very interesting. See, there are so many people in this world who are blabbering nonsense. You know, there are so many so-called gurus, so-called philosophers. They are blabbering. So on one hand, the devotees are preaching and establishing the truth of reality. Now, when the devotees also, when they hear about the Lord's glorious his appearance, his nama, rupa, guna, his leelas or transcendental, they hear about it, they are totally absorbed in that. They say, hell with you, you do whatever you want to do. You have no clue of what is the Lord's glories. So, in one sense here, Ramanajacharya is explaining that they have tolerated all this nonsense and they have absorbed themselves in the glory of the Lord's eternal nature. So that is being mentioned here. So here he is giving a quote, Tasya Dhira Parijananti Yonim. The wise men know about the Lord's method of birth. So they know very factually, they clearly understood about the Lord's appearance. Okay, now, another point. Such wise persons have given up attachment to or affection for persons who speak nonsense ideas. So this is the point I was just discussing. Vita Ragaha. My devotees have no fear of them, not anger towards them. So they are given up, they are not afraid of these personalities. Why? Because they are preoccupied with meditating on thinking of hearing and singing about my birth and activities. Manmaya. They attain prema for me, mad bhavam. So this is how. Because by their absorption in the Lord's janma and karma, by that absorption they could give up all this attachment, fear and anger they have for this atheists, demons, wranglers, so-called philosophers. They have just given up. So this is the another commentary by the Ramanajacharya. It's very nice. And Srila Prabhupada in some of his lectures, he is pointing out also that a devotee engages in performance of austerities. He performs austerities. He performs the control of senses and mind for what? For coming out of this attachment. and coming out of this bodily fear, the fear of material existence, the devotee absorbs. That's why he controls his mind and senses, and by keeping strength on what? By keeping strength on the practice of devotional service. So that's another point. And we see literally this happened in the lives of many devotees. We see the example of Dhruva Maharaj, we see the example of Prahlad Maharaj, we see many other personalities who have undergone severe austerities. Austerities for what? For pleasing the Lord. So and we have specifically in the practice of Krishna consciousness, we have the 4 regulative principles to be followed, and that in itself is an austerity, right? We also wake up early in the morning, we take cold water bath, we avoid prohibited items, we take only Krishna prasadam, like that we also perform austerities. So these austerities are given for what? So that we will not be bound by the material nature, we will not be stuck to the various allurements of this material world. So that is the whole thing. Okay. Now, okay. Okay, now Srila Prabhupada also pointed out, I'll just read this small section from Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu's commentary. By being purified by that removal of bad ideas, cleansed of ignorance, many persons attain prema for me, or attain existence with me, direct association with me. So this should be understood, They attain bhava means not that they merge. they have got direct association with the Lord. What type of people were this? These persons had given up attraction to, fear of, and hatred of those persons who oppose the eternality of the Lord's birth, because they were completely engaged in serving me with faith in me alone. So again, it's being stressed. Okay. Okay, here is a lecture by the Prabhupada. Okay, let me just go through this. The Mayavadis, there are 2 kinds of Mayavadi, the impersonalists and the voidists. They are all Mayavadi. So their philosophy is good so far, because a foolish man cannot understand more than this. A foolish man, if he is informed that there is better life in the spiritual world to become servant of God, Krishna, they think, I became servant of this material world. I have suffered so much. Again, servant of Krishna. Oh, they shudder. Oh no, this is not good. This is not good. As soon as they hear of service, they think of this service, this nonsense service. They cannot think of that there is service, but there is simply Ananda. One is still more eager to serve him, Krishna. That is spiritual world. That they cannot understand. You see, this is the problem. Okay. So these Nirviseshavadi, impersonalists, they think like that. Just like a diseased man lying on the bed. See, please pay attention. See how Prabhupada says here. And if he is informed that when you will be cured, you will be able to eat nicely, you will be able to walk, he thinks that. Again walking, again eating, because he is accustomed to eat bitter medicine and sabudana, not very palatable, and so many things, passing stool and urine, activities on the bed. So as soon as they inform that, after being cured, there is also passing of stool and urine and eating, but that is very palatable. He cannot understand. He says it is something like this. So this is the problem, So they look everything with the bitter experience. So Mayavadi impersonalists, they cannot understand that serving Krishna is simply pleasure and blissful. They cannot understand. Therefore they become impersonalist. No, the absolute truth cannot be person. That is another side of the Buddha philosophy. Impersonal means zero. That is also zero. So the Buddhist philosophy, they also make the ultimate goal zero. And these Mayavadis, they also make the ultimate goal. Okay, here is another lecture. Srila Prabhupada says, Vita Raga means when you increase Raga for Krishna, then you can become Vita Raga, Param Drishtva. That is, if you get Rasagulla, you can give up Gur. Now, Srila, see another thing, attachment. Attachment should be given up for what? For mundane things. But attachment for Krishna, Krishna's devotees, Krishna's name, Krishna's form, that should be increased. So Prabhupada is saying that if you develop that attachment, this attachment will be given up. So that is the whole point. So now, so with this, we understand that we have to develop Krishna consciousness. We have to become Krishna conscious. So that is the most important thing required. Now we see otherwise in this material world. See, what are the greatest fears that we have? There are so many fears. Now we have this fear of corona. We have undergone so many things. Adhyatmika klesh, adhibhautika klesh. Tsunami, cyclone. These are these great fears? Yes, you may say it may be, but the greatest fear is what? one moment forgetting Krishna. That is the greatest fear that we have. The devotees Acharyas are speaking like this. One moment of forgetfulness of Krishna, that is the greatest fear. Because one moment of forgetfulness of Krishna we can even lose our entire life. It's a great danger. So all these verses, we saw the series of verses from text 6 to text 10. It is driving the main point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His form is transcendental, his activities are transcendental, and he always is right there to protect his devotees. He is there to establish dharma, and from our side we should hear this with full conviction, with full faith, and take shelter of his lotus feet and surrender to him. So that is the message. That's why Krishna spoke all these verses. Now tomorrow we will hear about what about others who are not directly taking up this message, who are not surrendering. What about what is their situation, and further verses which speaks in those lines. Okay, so we will stop here. We spent quite some time on these two verses because these are very important verses for our understanding of our philosophy, and also we should be very clear with the position of the Lord, and also we should be immediately able to identify the difference between who is Bhagavan and who is not Bhagavan. We should be able to identify the bogus gurus when they claim themselves to be avatars. All those things needs to be understood. We could just look at all these things from these two verses. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any questions or comments or any realizations, welcome. Questions, comments, anything is not clear? Yes. Yes.
So can we say it's a perverted service here? Can we use the term? Service in a perverted form. If we say that, probably it will be convincing.
So, can you repeat the question? I'm not getting it.
Perverted. I mean, generally we say perverted.
Yeah.
So service also kind of perversion. Perverted service.
Okay. So you see, I'll clarify this. You see, some people, as Prabhupada quoted in this lecture, so when they hear that service means they get, people get, confused. So, but no, we have, so it's a great responsibility as practitioners of Krishna consciousness. It's our responsibility to very clearly explain the position of the Lord and what is our position and the relationship that we have with the Lord and how one becomes happy by the service that we render. And we also very clearly understand what are the services that we do in this material world. Yeah, because they have the misconception that people are exploiting when someone is, say, a manager is there, an employee is there, or a boss is there, or any owner is there. When he is not in proper consciousness, he may exploit the servant or the one who is subordinate to him. So they don't want to be exploited. So they think God also like that. They don't have the proper understanding. But by the very definition of devotional service, we understand by engaging in service to that Supreme Personality, that gives us happiness. The very definition of pure devotional service. This is the definition. Savai pumsang paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Prasidati, the jiva becomes happy, prasanna, he becomes happy. How? When we engage in unalloyed devotional service without any motivation. Ahaituki apratihata, without any expectation, just simply for the pleasure of the Lord and without any interruption. So this is the constitutional position of the jiva, always to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Apratihata means without, not that just, you just do something for 45 days. Sometimes people do this mandala puja. 45 days you get this benefit, and then you can altogether forget about going to temple or about the Lord and study of the Bhagavad Gita or whatever. So it's not like that. It is an eternal activity of the soul. So when someone gets to this knowledge and engages in the service, we can see immediately there is bliss, there is happiness, because the soul is situated in the constitutional position. So that's the whole point. Na anya seva kadachana. Dasabhuta harer eva na anya seva kadachana. This is the constitutional position of the soul. So he is not meant to satisfy anyone else. He is not meant to engage in anyone else's service. He is meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the point. So we explain what is its service. As long as they are in misconception, they will be confused. Okay. So thank you very much. We will stop here. So we will continue tomorrow with the rest of the verses. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Hare Krishna.